Hey everybody, I hope you're great. Joe Morrison, 49SAF Pod. And we are talking with the great Heather Kelly. She's bad, she's nationwide. To quote ZZ Top, look, I got a chance to put ZZ Top in the intro. I did it. It happens. Heather is the CEO and founder of Heather's Choice, a backcountry meals provider. And she's participating in the Bend Outdoor Worx accelerator. So we catch up with her about that. Couple things about this interview. One, she goes through a exercise as part of her accelerator related to company visioning. So she talks about, well, what's my company look like in 1 year, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Two things to note. A, that's not any kind of forward-looking statement. It's not relevant to any kind of investor. B, she's just describing her business planning and her vision and what she wants to execute. So I think it's really cool we get to hear that. Second thing to note about this interview is that about 30 minutes in, it gets a little bit heavy. And we talk about some of the challenges Heather has faced running her business. We talk about some of the things that are scary when you're running a startup. And we talk about some of the terrible decisions that some people have made in the startup ecosystem, not in Alaska, but in other parts of the United States, where they've taken their lives as a result. And I know that this is not what you want to hear in an intro, but I think it's important to talk about, and I think it's important that we think about founder mental health. So we left that in, and it's a pretty big part of the interview. We talk about it in around half an hour, a little over in. All right, on a happier note, Alaska Angel Conference 2019 is in the books. It's in the bag. If you were there, if you invested, if you participated as an entrepreneur, if you worked on it as an economic developer, 1,000 thank yous. I think it was a great night, and congratulations to Ramper Innovations of Sitka, Alaska, that won the event, and they're negotiating their investment currently. Congratulations. We are looking forward to continuing to support this effort as the years pass, and we're targeting Juneau next year, so stay tuned. Keep an eye on akangelconference.com and the 49SAF for more information. All right, we've covered the small stuff, we've covered the heavy stuff, we've covered the fun stuff. Let's cover the stuff with Heather. Let's go to Heather Kelly of Heather's Choice right now. Cheers.
You sound really upbeat. Are you positive, enthusiastic right now? Are you focused? Is it different from how you are when you're in Alaska?
Yes, it's different. I think definitely because I don't have anything to do but work. Yes, I get to take breaks and go for walks or whatever, but I'm literally in business boot camp, and it's awesome. It's kind of like being back in college for me, where I go to class, I come home, I do my homework, blah, blah, blah. So that feels good. It's actually a year-long program. So after June 3rd, we'll move to monthly meetings. And some of my homework right now, I'm working on a competitive analysis. So that's pretty cool. And then also working on customer personas for my sales plan. So we've touched on everything from our marketing plan to our sales plan to our org chart to our 10-year vision, kind of leaving no stone unturned.
Why did you do this? You've been in accelerators. You've run your business. Why go to Bend?
I came down here in October for a pitch fest. So Bend Outdoor Worx puts on a pitch fest in October of every year at the Tower Theater, and Heather's Choice actually won the grand prize for that pitch fest, which was awesome. Thanks to Launch Alaska, who taught me how to pitch. And they invited me to come down and be a part of their 6th cohort for this accelerator program. And really the exciting part for me was to start to get to know people in the industry a bit better. So specifically the outdoor industry, because Heather's Choice sort of straddles the natural foods industry and the outdoor industry. So we really need to know how to play the game in both. And so pretty much getting to that point in the business where I realized there's a lot for me to learn in terms of how to play the game. So getting to sit down with people like the president of Refware or the food buyer at REI or the woman who started Hum Kombucha. Hanging with those people and learning from them has been super valuable for me.
What part of the game did you not understand how to play before
Distribution.
Okay.
Definitely distribution. So the other company that's in this cohort with us is also a food company called Picky Bar, and they are a few years older than us. They have distribution into all REI doors. They are in Whole Foods. They're in UNFI. They have hundreds of retailers. They're moving into Walmart and Target, and getting to sit down with them and see where revenue is coming from, but which pieces they're actually making money off of has been really valuable to me. So as an example, they recently turned down a deal for 8,000 doors, which sounds pretty darn attractive. But once we looked at the terms together, it was like, ooh, no, that is not a good deal. Don't do that. So that's helpful for me to see that not every deal is a good deal. And especially in natural foods, there's just a lot of margin that gets eaten up along the way.
So besides distribution, what has your other kind of key takeaway been so far?
I would say working on a 10-year plan. So actually trying to establish not only what can we do in a year, what can we do in 3 years, but what does the business look like 10 years from now? And I think that helps break down the things that you're going to do month by month by having a long-term goal. And it also helps the employees figure out, okay, do I have a place here? Is this the right fit for me? Or do I need to jump ship and make room for somebody else who wants to be a part of the 10-year vision?
And so take us through your 1, 3, 5, and 10 years.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You ready for this? I need my notes because it's kind of big, I guess. There's a lot to it. We left no stone unturned. So even through this whole business accelerator program and working with another food company that is co-packing, has national distribution, is doing well, it's probably 10 times our size. Even working alongside them, it's helped me to solidify a couple of key points for Heather's Choice. So one of the big ones is that 10 years from now, year 2028, I still want all Heather's Choice products to be made in Anchorage. And this is a huge point of contention, and people give me a hard time about it constantly, about how you're having to ship everything to Alaska and that's not economical and blah, blah, blah. But I think that there is a huge opportunity for us to not only leverage the Made in Alaska piece, but then also to completely own our manufacturing. And in talking with these other food companies who are dealing with crazy headaches with co-packers, it's been very solidifying for me that I want to make sure that we're making our own stuff from here on out. So stepping a little bit backwards, now we'll go all the way to year 2028. Year 2028, Heather's Choice will be at $15 million in revenue. We'll be at a 15% net profit. Our focus will be brand authority. So when you walk into your local major retailer, whether that's REI or Sportsman's Warehouse or Bass Pro or Cabela's, Heather's Choice will be on the shelf and will command really good brand presence, and you'll be compelled to pick it up and take it with you on a trip. We will have 50 SKUs, at least 100 employees, and we have it also broken up by which sales channels we'll be selling into, which includes e-commerce, Amazon, independent wholesale, guides and outfitters, major retail, and government contracting. You still with me?
I'm still with you. I'm listening.
Let's see. So then in year 2022, so let's say that's about a little over 3 years from now, our revenue will be at $3.4 million, which is the max capacity we have on our current production facility that we're in. We'll have a 10% net profit, and our focus will be on maximizing our current production space before we're ready to make the move into a bigger batter facility. We'll have 36 SKUs and probably 16 employees, and definitely be needing to make some key hires, specifically around marketing and sales. We have also the same sales channel. So e-commerce has always been strong for us, and that will continue to grow. By then, Amazon should be $1 million a year business for us. And then we'll also have independent wholesale, the guides and outfitters, and the major retail channels. So then that brings us back to this year. So this year, our goal is to do 700,000 in revenue, and we have a stretch goal of $1 million. Some exciting things on the horizon that could make that possible for us. Our goal is to break even. So I've really taken to heart what you've been telling me all along about managing cash flow better. So I spend a lot of time now looking at spreadsheets. Our focus is definitely on being a sustainable business. So cash flowing ourselves and understanding our seasonality and managing that better, working to decrease that seasonality and get some more consistent streams of income. We have 20 SKUs and 8 employees. And right now we continue to sell really well through our website. We're growing our independent wholesale channel. We just launched on Amazon last week. And we also just got pack rooms into 25 REI doors and are looking to really cultivate that relationship with REI so that someday soon they're going to want to carry the entire Heather's Choice line, which will be so exciting.
I mean,
I've got. That's kind of your high level.
It is mind blowing that you're in. For me, I mean, maybe I'm easily pleased. I don't know. Probably not. But, you know, it's mind blowing that you're in REI. Like that is a real accomplishment. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks. So that is one thing that's been really helpful about being here in Bend and doing this accelerator is it's one thing to get your foot in the door, but now how do you ensure good sell-through? So we got some really good hard numbers that the industry average to beat is 2 SKUs per flavor per week. So let's say we have 4 flavors in REI. Every store every week needs to sell 8 pack rooms. If we do better than that, then they'll want to expand us into all 150 doors. So you can imagine I'm pretty freaking tempted to just go buy 10 pack rooms a week for my local REI and call it good. But that's part of the strategy, I guess, is figuring out how are you going to ensure good sell-through for your retailers.
Do you think that, talk about what you got from Alaska and what you didn't get from Alaska. So, you know, you got a lot of education and support from Alaska, but then, you know, you're in Bend and you're in a new accelerator and you're getting new things out of that. So can you do a little pros and cons for us?
Yep. From Alaska, I got some maybe undeserved opportunity, I would say, because I definitely remember when Lance approached me back in 2016 and said, hey, you know, we're launching this accelerator program. I've got a $25,000 check with your name on it if you want it. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And so whether or not I deserved that, I think Alaska is a small enough pool of people that I was granted some pretty cool opportunities with that. So going through the Launch Alaska program, I definitely learned how to pitch, and that has obviously served me very well since then. I feel like that was a big focus during my time with Launch Alaska, and anywhere I've traveled to, whether it's more people around Anchorage or it's outdoor retailer or it's Bend Outdoor Worx, anytime I've pitched, I've gotten good feedback on it. So that's been incredibly valuable. And then obviously working with Alaska Accelerator Fund and Catherine, once again, I think I got some very generous investors who maybe knew that I didn't know what I was doing, but they gave me a chance. And then simultaneously working with Paul and Neil at Anchorage Equity Partners, who connected me with EAC Native Corporation, just gotten a lot of good opportunity to raise money. And then also, I would say pretty hands-off investors who are like, hey, we know that you don't know what you're doing exactly, but you're learning. We don't necessarily know exactly about your industry, how to help you and how to coach you, but we believe in you enough to give you a chance. So I would say that I've gotten a lot out of Alaska as far as support. And then now coming down to Bend, I feel like I'm getting just a lot more specific industry experience. And then there's also the value of leaving Alaska physically for 4 months and having to work on the business rather than just show up and do the day-to-day stuff every day and wonder why we're treading water. So it's really valuable just to not be anywhere near the kitchen, be away from my staff, and have homework that is designed to make me think about the big picture rather than just putting out fires all day, every day.
What was the best day of your entire time at Heather's Choice?
When I got to pitch last year at Outdoor Retailer for Canberra Outdoors, I had known that the best possible outcome could have been the senior vice president of REI saying, I think we should put you in our doors. And when I finished my pitch, Susan, the SVP at REI, was like, I think we should start you off in our Northwest doors. And so that was just like the perfect outcome that I wanted, was that opportunity to sell to REI. And we did it. So honestly, pitching at Canberra is what got us on the radar of the REI food buyers. And yes, it has taken from July until April to actually get our product into their doors. But that was something that I really wanted to accomplish. And now we've done it. Now we can just grow is the hope.
Conversely, what was your toughest moment?
Last spring, when I'd been out of money for 9 months and wasn't sure if Anchorage Equity Partners and EAC and everybody was actually going to pull through, when, I was waiting to get the sign off from you on the equipment that we were going to purchase. And it was just a lot of like back and forth, and time went on forever. And I'd been out of money for so freaking long. That's not a time I ever want to live through again, but that seems to be kind of part of the game when you are a food business. Every time you get bigger, you need to cough up a whole bunch of money for working capital and buying ingredients and buying packaging and hiring more people and da-da-da-da. So, being without cash is by far the most stressful part of this whole game, I would say.
Yeah, I'm just processing that. I don't think I knew it was 9 months. I knew you were having a hard time. I didn't know it was 9 months. And then there's this thing in Alaska where deals take, at least these deals, the deals I see, take a long time to come together typically. So yeah, that's really interesting. Here's something I've always wondered. What pressures do you feel in running your business? Like what obligations, what pressures, like what pushes you? What do you carry on a daily basis with regards to Heather's Choice?
I definitely have a strong, I would say it's more of a desire than a pressure to have a win. Like I personally think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the angel investor community in Alaska would love to have a win and maybe hasn't had a major win to date. Again, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I would love, when I think about, let's say, having an exit from Heather's Choice and getting to write checks to our investors, I do think about like Gary Klopper being like, here you go, Gary. Here's your check. Thanks for believing in me, whether you did or not. And so that's definitely something that drives me, is that desire to have a win for what I consider to be the Alaska ecosystem. I also feel a lot of pressure to keep people employed. So like right now we have 8 employees. We're about to hire 2 more. And man, like looking at cash flow and being like, ooh, my top priority every single month is payroll. Like that is of the utmost importance. Otherwise, I got to start letting people go. So that's a big pressure. And then I would also say, I think a lot of folks, myself included, maybe thought Heather's Choice would be further along by now, and maybe hoped that it would be further along by now. But it's not. So just have to keep going. Just have to keep working at it every day and be good with whatever we can accomplish in every year. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe from the outside, people are like, oh, wow, you got into REI and things are cruising and blah, blah, blah. But for me, it will have been 5 years in August. And we're still not a big company. There's still no guarantees we're going to make it. So that's a lot of pressure.
Well, but you kind of, when you started out, did you anticipate that you were building a scalable business? Or when you started out, did you just want to make the meals that you wanted to make? Right? Because like if you were 5 years old, that means you started in 14, but you sort of joined this scalable grow conversation in 16, I think. So how did you start, and what was your original intent, and how has that changed?
When I started, you're spot on. It was definitely my expensive hobby, and it was literally a triple dog dare from a friend of mine who said, hey, you're going to turn this into a business or not. And yeah, I would say from August 2014 until probably June of 2016, it was just dogged determination to keep it alive, and definitely wasn't thinking about it being huge, wasn't thinking about scaling, was just thinking, wow, if I could actually quit my other job and focus on this full time, that'd be pretty gratifying. And then in 16, I think Catherine is the one who said it, like we kind of officially turned into a business once we joined the Launch Alaska Accelerator program. Because when we joined that, I was still the only person working on it, and I wasn't even full time. So I think there's some validity to that it really wasn't until Launch Alaska that it became a little bit more viable, maybe.
And so when you look at your year and you look at this $700,000 you want to make, this $1 million stretch goal, kind of what's your priority in terms of, I feel like there's always one core thing that a business needs to do. Maybe I'm nuts, but there's always like sort of one key strategic thing that they have to address or overcome. And what's that for you right now?
Not running out of stock, for sure. So that happened last year where our permitting just took too long and blah, blah, blah. Our whole summer season, which is where we make the bulk of our money, we just missed it because we didn't have product in stock. And so for this year, looking at our busy season, which we're almost in the thick of it now, as soon as we run out of stock, we're not making money. And so that's a huge piece for us, is figuring out how can we buy enough ingredients and have enough stuff on hand and staff enough employees and have enough equipment to actually keep up when the floodgates do hit. Because as an example, I anticipate in August we'll do 200,000 in sales. That's a lot of pack rooms. That's a lot of freaking product going out the door. That's a lot of like people running tape guns and building boxes and filling bags. And it's the Alaska factor where you make the bulk of your money in the summer and it is go, 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 go until it all ends in September. And then it goes dormant. So for us, a big piece of that is figuring out how can we make sure that our core customer base, which is still the big game backcountry hunter that's going to be leaving on trips in August and September, how can we make sure that they come to us and we service them and they don't go somewhere else?
I think that to some extent, this is a deep thought, and I think this is what I was going to say earlier. To some extent, there's an element of not fairness related to the expectations surrounding building a company. So I'm a big believer in paying your investors back, and I look forward to that day too, by the way. But this expectation that I think is kind of fostered in our society surrounding investment and high growth and like quick exits. Yeah, kind of in software, maybe that's a universe that for the most part, we most of us don't play in. Some of us do. And to some extent our fund does. But, realistically, how long does it take to build a good business? And the answer is it takes a long time, right? So I don't know that, whether I think of certainly you, I think of Bambino's Baby Food, I think of a lot of companies that are slugging it out, and this stuff just takes time. It's like planting a tree. Trees take time to grow. I'm not saying don't push, don't hit your $1 million, Don't take that $15 million and make it 20 plus. Please do, by all means. We'd all love that. Everybody wins. But at the same time, like to be like, oh, it's year 5, Heather should be at $12.5 million of revenue. Well, that would be nice, but how realistic is that really? And are we doing companies a favor in society by having those expectations? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good question.
Go ahead.
Because I definitely have seen that in being here with other companies. I think a 25-year-old business and do 30 million annually, but it's taken 25 years. And alternatively, a company like Hydro Flask isn't necessarily that old, but somebody basically swooped in and bought out the founder and dumped a whole bunch of money into it and flipped it, and now they're huge. So I do think that there's a difference in expectations, but I also think it's a difference in the strategy and the plan. Like, had we wanted Heather's Choice to be the next RX bar? Well, probably going to take a few more dollars to make that happen, to actually get into that market and get that product placement and get those end caps and ton more dollars worth of marketing and way bigger deals with our co-packers. And it would just be a totally different strategy. So I think for us, working to build a company that is based in Alaska, that Alaska can be proud of, it is a little bit different. I have the underlying fear all the time that we're going to run out of money. I don't know that will ever go away. And you just get up and do it anyway. So that was one thing that we talked about in the cohort, was like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? And we actually ran through it, and it was like, well, you run out of money and nobody wants to give you more money and you have to liquidate everything and everybody goes home, which would be awful. That would suck. I would hate that. But it was also good to go through that exercise and realize, okay, I'm not going to die. Because sometimes it feels like a near-death experience when the business isn't going well. I don't know if you've ever had that, but it definitely feels as if you are dying.
Maybe I should just gloss over this. It is life and death, and it's not life and death, right? I feel like, I bet that was super terrible to go through, 9 months of no money. Like, I bet it was psychologically and emotionally wrecking.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm only pointing it out because, you're tough, you're upbeat, you can discuss it perfectly at this moment. And I think that there is often a cost psychologically and emotionally that entrepreneurs pay. And I suspect you had to pay it. And, I'm thrilled that things are going well for you, that the REI contract is in place and that there's opportunity to grow. But, way to be tough and way to keep going. Congratulations, Heather.
Hey, thanks. I think that even though, again, this winter was slow and now we're coming into our busy season and we're not swimming in cash, going through that 9 months has given me almost a different gear of like, okay, I can get through this. There's opportunity. Like, we can stay the course. So that definitely gives me some hope having gone through that. I don't wish that upon anybody. And yeah, I don't know any entrepreneurs, again, no matter how big your business gets, like, it'll still get super freaking scary, which is where you have to have this unreasonable sense of hope and hopefully a really good plan in place and a group of people that support you. And as wooey as this sounds, I definitely know that regardless of the success of Heather's Choice, like, my family's still going to love me. My friends are still going to be there for me. We're still going to hang out. Like, my life would be different, but overall, like, I would still be okay. And I don't know that every entrepreneur necessarily realizes that when you're going through the really hard times, because it does feel like a death. Feels like your personality, a big chunk of your life, a big chunk of your energy and your effort dies. And that's not very fun.
Oh, yeah. So I think that, like, I think the other step that I want to say here, having just been aware of some things that have happened in different entrepreneurial ecosystems, when we were building the accelerator, I was really aware of something that happened in Colorado where a founder took their life. And recently in the Seattle market, a key piece of the ecosystem also committed suicide. So, like I'm calling it out here a little bit because it really is that dark and trying. And yeah, it's bad, but failure. So, like I'm just geeking out a little more. Churchill said that leadership is jumping from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Well, I don't know about you, but I sure as heck lose enthusiasm depending on how hard I get hit. Uh, it's never worth. It's never worth that. And when you really think about it, the people who have made these choices in dark times didn't really anticipate going here, Heather. So hang on with me. But the people who have made these choices in dark times, like they don't see their family, they don't see their support, they don't see that they get another chance, they don't see that they're a pillar of the community. Like, all it is just it's that level of intensity, right?
Yep, for sure. And that's why I think it's so important to have things outside of the business that you realize, okay, regardless of whether this thing is successful or not, I have other things going on that I'm excited about, or I have other things to look forward to. Because, yeah, you can imagine how big of an embarrassment, mainly my ego, would die if Heather's Choice didn't make it, because my freaking name is all over it. That would be one of the most painful parts. But I also know that I would get back up and brush myself off and go on to the next thing. And I don't know who it was. It might have been you. It might have been somebody else in the community that was like, hey, whether this thing, takes off or not, you could find yourself raising money again to do something else. Like, there are entrepreneurs out there whose first businesses failed and they still went on to create big things like Mr. GoPro or Mr. Tom Shoes or whatever. So even though obviously I don't want Heather's Choice to fail, I want it to be successful just as bad as anybody else. I also recognize that the success or failure of Heather's Choice is not ultimately going to define me as a person. And I haven't always felt that way, for sure.
Well, my friend, you are pretty darn tough. And if only your ego is bruised, if you take a multiple year journey and things don't work out and only your ego is bruised or destroyed, you're in pretty good shape. So I think you've got a good handle on it. All right, sunny weather, happier times, prettier discussions. How about we talk about, if there's one thing you could add from your experience in Oregon to Alaska, what would it be? Like, if there's one piece of the Oregon thing, whether it's Outdoor Worx or just some aspect of education or the ecosystem or peers, if you could be like, I had one wish to bring this to Alaska from my experience in Oregon, what is that?
We've been using the book Traction as sort of a guide for the curriculum for Bend Outdoor Worx. And that's been really helpful because you do start with your why, your how, and your what. And that has, I think, helped invigorate my employees. Because if you come in and you're like, okay, everybody, like, the goal is to make more money, that doesn't get them out of bed in the morning. Whereas coming at them and saying, okay, everybody, like, the big picture for Heather's Choice is, at Heather's Choice, we believe that life is an adventure and you are on an adventure with us. Like, that actually kind of excites them a little bit more and makes it a little bit easier to get people bought into the vision to work a little bit harder or stay up later or work weekends or whatever. And so I don't know, I haven't been a part of Launch Alaska for years, so I don't know what they're covering now. But I think some of that big picture, your North Star, why are you here? Why do you exist? How do you communicate that to people? That's been exceptionally valuable because, man, like especially in a manufacturing business, when you need people to work at a certain pace, if you don't have a compelling reason for them, they won't speed up. Or if you don't have a compelling reason for somebody to work for equity instead of a salary, or a decreased salary for a potential long-term payoff, like if you can't communicate that bigger why outside of, well, we're going to make money, I think it just becomes too difficult to get people signed up and on board.
Right on. Well, that's it. Heather, any final words or deep thoughts of wisdom before we call it and I ask my final question?
No, just a big thank you to you. I know that you've taken chances on us multiple times now. It's been 5 different deals that you've been a part of?
Yeah, probably. Everybody should know I don't make the decisions to invest in Heather. The fund managers in whom I invest make the decision to invest in Heather. And we, when they decide to do that, then we do a bunch of compliance and analysis and provide go-aheads. But these are the decisions by the private investment managers in our community. That said, pretty lucky that you've got some nationwide distribution right now. Pretty lucky that you're in your second accelerator. You continue to win awards. I think we're all pretty thankful. So thank you.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I say, I want to win for all of us so that something can go back into the ecosystem.
All right. Final question has to be 100% truthful. Tell me what your deepest, darkest, most honestly enjoyable, terrible pop music fixation is. Who do you put on that you don't want anybody to know you listen to?
If you see me at the gym and I have my headphones in, I'm probably listening to Katy Perry.
All right, that's it. Peacock, Katy Perry, Heather Kelly, Joe Morrison, the NSAF pod. Thank you very much.